If you're on social media at all and you're following any influencers, meaning people that have like their own podcasts and video content, stuff like that, putting out motivational type stuff or stuff about real estate investing, whatever you like to follow, at some point you've probably come across what's called a quote card or a quote graphic, meaning it's an image that has a quote on it, and it might be a quote from like Mark Twain or Theodore Roosevelt or somebody else. That is exactly what we're talking about. So quote graphics, quote cards. Here's the thing. So I just use the example of like a Mark Twain quote, and anytime I get on the phone with a new client and we're talking about the content that we're going to be producing for them, one of the first things that we talk about outside of video content is these graphic images we'll be putting out for them. So I have 2 graphic designers on my team that create, their full-time job is literally just creating these graphics for our clients. And the bottom line is that I do not like to have unoriginal content that goes out on my clients' platforms, meaning that I don't like to use a quote that comes from somebody else's mouth in order to put it on my client's platform. And I know a lot of people have these different strategies, so they'll actually use quotes from other people just because they're inspirational or whatever they are. But here's the thing. If you have original content and original quotes, it's all gonna be directed and pointing back to you, which is ideally what you want when it comes down to getting traction with the content. So how do you pull these quotes for your graphics and whatnot? So I'm gonna kind of explain that process because I think a lot of people think it's a little complicated, but it can be extremely easy if you just boil it down to just a couple of key factors and steps in order to make it happen. So the first things first. Now, I do have a team that's behind all of this stuff, but you can have one person do it. You could do it yourself, or you could hire somebody off of like Upwork or Fiverr to do it for you as well. Both of those platforms have excellent graphic designers. They're all a dime a dozen, so you can find them. So here's the thing. You have video content out, maybe you have a podcast, or even if you've been on other podcasts or other people's video content, maybe you've been a guest on a show or whatever, this is where you start. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take these videos and these podcast episodes or whatever you have, whatever audible content that you have out there, and you're gonna have your graphic designer go through and scrub through all of that content and pull little quotes that you say out of there. It could be 3 words, it could be 3 sentences if you want it to be. But this is how you come up with it. So literally you're gonna pull that content out of there, because here's the thing. A lot of times when you're kind of in the mix, especially say you're on a podcast or whatever, you might say something a certain way that you never say it that way again. And if somebody can find that quote on that podcast episode and pull that for you, then there you go, bada bing. That's exactly what you need and what you're looking for, because it's gonna be original, it's gonna be coming from your mouth directly, and that's gonna be the best content you could put out on your platforms. So you take that quote, and we like to use Trello. So what we'll do is we'll have a board that has all the quotes on there, and each card, they call them cards, just little individual elements that are in there, they'll have the quote word for word in there. Then my graphic designer will go in, copy that quote, and then create a graphic out of it. Now, you may ask, what do you use for graphics? You see a lot of people that have images of themselves. They have generic looking backgrounds or textures that are on the images. And the bottom line is it really doesn't matter as long as it's in alignment with what you are and who you are. Take for instance me. I'm not gonna be putting bright lime green or yellow colors on my quote cards because, as you can see, my thing is black, it's dark. I like to have things a little bit darker, and that's just kind of my personality, my branding. People know me for wearing all black all the time. So most of my content is gonna be black, white, or gray, and then you might see sprinkled in there some of my brand colors for Color Media, which is that kind of aqua teal blue mixture. And that's at most the color that you're gonna see on my content. So just make sure that those elements are in alignment with what your brand is, whether it's your personal brand, you as a personality, or your company brand. And then at that point, that's where the Fiverr or the Upwork graphic designer comes in. So they're gonna come in, take that quote, they're gonna create a graphic out of it. You can send them images of you can send them images of maybe textures that you wanna use, the colors and whatnot, and then they'll slap it on there, they'll create a little graphic, and if you wanna do it yourself, if you're cheap, which I do not recommend doing because you're not a graphic designer, it is worth having somebody else do it. I promise you guys, just trust me on this. You don't want to get yourself bogged down because you're going to do it a few times, a handful of times, and then you're going to just let it go and it's not going to happen for you anymore. So hire somebody to do this. But in the case that you want to do it yourself, maybe you do have a little skill in graphic design. Canva is obviously a really good choice, but Photoshop is by far the best thing that you can use when it comes to designing these. But Photoshop is definitely a learning curve when it comes down to it. So bottom line, have somebody else design it. That's what I would recommend. And then now you're gonna take that quote card / quote graphic and you're gonna post that on your social platforms. So here's the thing, don't just post the quote card, one sentence, and be done with it. This is an opportunity for you to actually use your writing skills, if you have any, and open this up and allow people to dive deeper into the content. Because here's the thing, here's the trick when it comes to quote graphics. A lot of times quote graphics get far more traction than video content does because of the fact that people want to open up the content. And the platforms reward if they spend more time on your content. So you have the graphic, and then what I would do is, and I do this on all my quote graphics, is I actually type out at least 5 to 7 paragraphs worth of copy explaining that quote and literally talking about what that quote means. So let me give you an example. I have this quote here that says, consistency is the biggest factor to success in content marketing. But if you click on more where the copy is, you can see that there's a lengthy copy in there. And that's what you want, because what happens is people will come to this, they'll see that one little quote, consistency is the biggest factor to success in content marketing. And then they'll see that there's a large copy underneath it and they want to read into it more and dig into it a little bit deeper to see what contextual meaning is behind that actual quote. And so this causes them to do what? Spend more time on your post. So more people will see it because the platforms think it's valuable to people. So that's what you want. And that's ideally where the power of graphic images come into play when it comes to social content. So that's kind of the process of creating these quote cards / quote graphics. And it's not difficult, guys. Just come up with the quote, pull it from your video content. That's the easiest thing to do in my opinion. And then you actually have a graphic designer, hire them on Fiverr or Upwork, have them design with all the elements that you have, and then post it with a good amount of copy underneath that post. So that's the process of it. Make sure you guys take advantage and do that. And again, shameless plug, if you haven't followed me on Instagram or TikTok, make sure you go do that at The Content Ninja. That's where you can find me. If you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure you give it a big thumbs up, leave a comment below, and then share this around with whomever you think it would be valuable to. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.